You know, there was a time when coming home from school and turning on your console and getting lost into the GTA game was the highlight of my day. It didn't matter if you followed the missions or just drove around listening to the radio. Something about those worlds just felt alive. For a lot of us, myself included, GTA was a special game. A game where you could be lost and pretend to be a grown-up, drive around the city and do whatever grown-ups did. Staying up late, laughing with friends, discovering secrets or just messing around in the city felt more real than it had any right to. For me, each game felt like a moment in time, a part of growing up. I started my journey on a PlayStation 1 with the first game of Grand Theft Auto. It wasn't so special when it came out, but I saw a potential in it, and looking back at how big the company is now is fascinating to see where it all started. So sit back, make yourself a cup of tea or a coffee and enjoy this video about history of Grand Theft Auto. In 1984, a group of friends gathered in a small computer club room in Dundee, Scotland. The club members were well known in the local scene. People like Dave Jones, who at the time was studying system engineering, his classmate and also close friend Steve Hammond, Mike Daly, and Russell Kay. They were all friends, and they were working together on a game for the ZX Spectrum console. The group called themselves the Kingsway Amateur Computer Club, or KACC, and for them, making video games was one of the most exciting things in the world. They often worked on projects that challenged and expanded their skill sets. But one day, everything changed. Dave was tired of the games that they were making, and he wanted some science fiction game. So he came with this science fiction shooter game called Menace, and that was a turning point. Dave decided to stop making games for the ZX Spectrum and, along with his friend Tony Smith, started experimenting with Amiga, a much powerful machine that allowed for far more detailed graphics. Menace was heavily inspired by Salamander, a game by Konami. The problem with Salamander was that it was only playable in arcades, and seeing this opportunity, Dave and his friend decided to make the same type of game for a home console. At the time it was quite an achievement by the boys, because home consoles were 10 times less powerful than any arcade machine. So, of course, their work caught the attention of a well-known game publisher called Psygnosis, who offered to publish their game Menace. That's when Dave founded his new studio, DMA Design. The name DMA came from a feature in Amiga programming called Direct Memory Access, which Dave found it fascinating. And so, after years of programming and designing, Dave finally released his first game, called Menace. It was a major milestone for these young developers, showing them that serious money could be made from this new form of media. At the time, game developers wasn't seen a serious career path. It was seen as a more niche hobbyist thing than a real venture. But when the first royalty checks came in, Dave saw the real potential for this growing industry. So he opened a small office in downtown Dundee, and DMA began working on a series of CFI shooters, all in the similar style to the Menace. Then something unexpected happened. One of the developers started animating a small pixelated character for the project, and without realizing it, sparked the chain of reaction that changed the whole company's future forever. Most of the young gamers today probably don't know these little creatures. These were tiny pixelated people whose death were made into a tragic but comical part of the game. Mike Daly and Gary Timmons got into a friendly argument about how many pixels it would take to make a character look human but use as little pixels as possible while still being nicely animated. They kept showing each other examples, with each improving on one's design. Eventually they turned their experiments into animations of the characters being crushed, smashed or exploded. What started as an inside joke soon turned into a full game idea. When Psygnosis saw the animations, they loved the idea, so the team began on developing a game where the main characters were suicidal rodents, and Lemmings was born. It was DMA's first game that demanded the full attention of the entire studio. Mike, Dave, Russell, Scott and Gary all challenged each other to come up with clever and difficult levels. They became so skilled at playing the game that they would breeze through even the toughest stages, which only encouraged them to create even harder ones. In 1991, DMA released Lemmings, and its success was immediate. On launch day alone, they sold over 55,000 copies. That might not sound like a lot of today, but back in the early 90s, that was equal of selling millions. Lemmings became an overnight culture phenomenon and propelled DMA into a spotlight. And even industry giant like Nintendo, who controlled over 80% of the gaming market at that time, took notice. DMA reinvested their profits into improving their operations and moving to a larger studio in Dundee, hiring more staff to manage their growing number of projects. They also started using cutting-edge technology for motion capture and audio. Naturally, they didn't forget about their beloved Lemmings and spent the next few years releasing sequels, each well received by the fans. But in 1993, Psygnosis was acquired by Sony, who wanted exclusive games for their upcoming console, the PlayStation. This left DMA in a tough spot, without a publisher and no longer in control of the Lemmings IP. In the end, that may have been a blessing in disguise. The team was growing tired of childish themes of Lemmings and wanted to work on more mature content. Their attention turned to a newly released 3DO console, and they began developing a new game to take advantage of more powerful hardware. However, they didn't stick with 3DO for long. Before they could finish, Nintendo offered them a deal to bring the game to their upcoming console instead, the Nintendo 64. That game was called Body Harvest, and it was unlike anything DMA had done before. It was their first true 3D game, combining their love for science fiction with more mature action elements. But Nintendo, being Nintendo, wasn't thrilled with the darker, more adult themes of Body Harvest. They had hoped for something more like Lemmings, cute and family friendly. Despite the compromises on both sides, DMA missed the Nintendo's launch window, which was the condition on their publishing deal. Because of that, they lost the Nintendo and their publisher. Instead, Midway stepped in and released the game. Once again, this setback turned out to be a hidden opportunity. Had they stayed with Nintendo, they likely wouldn't have been held back, especially for what came next for DMA was anything beyond they had imagined. Enter the Hauser brothers, Sam Hauser and Dan Hauser. At the time, they were relatively unknown and worked at BMG Interactive Studio on a variety of small projects. For them, it was just a job. They didn't take the industry too seriously. They simply did what they knew best: programming. They didn't even like video games at all. It was just an office work for them. Understandable so. Most popular games at that time were aimed at kids, while they were grown men. But everything changed in 1995 when Dave Jones visited their office and pitched a rather unusual game idea. It was a game designed for adults, featuring multiplayer action, exciting chases, and crime. They called it Race and Chase. First prototype was built by Mike Daly, who was struggling to simulate a day and night cycle in a 3D environment. Eventually, he solved the issue by lifting the camera high to the sky. That way, the camera would look at the player from top. Issue solved. If the player won't be seeing the sky at all, you don't need a day and night cycle. Gradually, the prototype began to take shape. 3D buildings appear as a stretch cubes. Then the roads were laid out. Once the camera system and visual style were set, Mike and Dave started programming on basic driving mechanics, things like camera tracking and simple traffic scripts to visualize how the game would actually play. But after a few weeks of testing, they realized something important. The game wasn't fun. The game lacked some fundamental thing to be fun. Originally, the idea was that players would choose between two teams, cops and robbers, and they engage in chases through the city. But this concept was quickly dropped when they realized that playing as police was incredibly boring. Avoiding pedestrians and slowing down to every intersection made the pace feel sluggish. That camera, the top-down camera, also caused issues. It limited player field of view, making it hard to react to obstacles at high speeds. So they made key changes. They removed the playable police characters and focused solely on playing as criminals. Now players had much more freedom, but there were still no real consequences, which also made the game feel dull. So they quickly brought the police back, this time as AI control characters. And from there, the idea started flowing. What if firefighters chase criminals to extinguish fires, or ambulances arrive to help injured civilians? Other criminals would steal your cars. Bus drivers would drive around the city. This was the moment when Dave Jones saw the game's real potential and pitched to the Hauser brothers. They were blown away by the game's open-ended design and convinced their bosses at BMG Interactive to publish it under one condition. The name had to be changed to Grand Theft Auto.
Now, all the people in here are working on what DMA hopes will be its new blockbuster. It's a game called Grand Theft Auto. It's got to be finished by the end of June, so they're involved in some pretty hard work in here. It's all about a car chase through the streets of a fictional, probably American city. Here are some of the maps they've been working on. And Dave here is one of the software designers who's been trying to put it together. Dave, just explain.
Now that the contract was signed, the real work began. The game engine built by Mike was incredibly complex and constantly crashed. These crashes made designing the game's map nearly impossible. To fix the issue, they decided to lay out an entire city on a paper first. That way they could track who was working on what part of the map and what was already completed. When the massive paper map, barely fitting on their desk, was finally finished, they transferred the entire design into the game. But even after importing the full city and trying it out, the game still wasn't fun. Surely you can run, kill people with various weapons, but no matter how many features they added, the game lacked excitement. Then a happy accident changed everything. Mike's incredibly complex and constantly crashing engine had a bug, causing police cars to ram into the player non-stop instead of trying to stop them. It looked as if the cops were magnetically drawn to the player and never gave up the chase. It was chaotic and fun. That bug ended up becoming one of the game's defining features. And just like that, the now iconic GTA Wanted level system was born, a core mechanic that still defies the Grand Theft Auto series to this day. But high-speed chases weren't the only pitch that Grand Theft Auto offered. Right before the game release, the Hauser brothers came up with a brilliant idea to boost its sales. They hired Max Clifford, a notorious publicist, to spread the word to the media about the game's offensive and immoral nature. And the media? They took the bait. Hard. Grand Theft Auto starting appearing everywhere. Magazines, newspapers, TV segments, all warning parents about this horrible game that is about to hit the stores. Ironically, most of those parents wouldn't even heard of this GTA if not the press coverage. The controversy worked too well. BMG Interactive started getting cold feet and even threatened to cancel the game, fearing that negative backlash might damage their brand. But DMA stood their ground. They did believe that they have a true winner on their hands, and the success would follow, no matter the noise. In late 1997, DMA finally released the first Grand Theft Auto on Microsoft DOS, Windows, followed shortly by ports on Sony PlayStation and even the Game Boy Color. Even though the game technically had a story, most of the players quickly gravitated towards the game's real appeal: destruction and chaos. GTA gave players every possible tool to cause mayhem and rewarded them for it. You earned points for running over the pedestrians, blowing up cars, and escaping from the police. The missions were optional. Many players choose to ignore them entirely and just wreak havoc until they earned enough points to progress. One of the most exciting features, the ability to get out of the car and steal any other vehicle you could find. Fire trucks, buses, motorcycles, and even tanks were available for a player to drive around. It added the whole new layer of freedom, and to make the experience even more immersive, each vehicle came with a radio station.
You're listening to Head Radio,
FM Stereo.
the network show with Eddie Simmons.
He's a jam.
Completely with original music and fictional DJ hosting it. But not a lot of people knew that original GTA had a local multiplayer mode, myself included. Players could connect through a modem and play together in the same city, racing, battling each other in a chaotic open world. It was a cool idea, but ultimately the game wasn't polished enough for it really to shine. Critics weren't very kind also. Many complained about difficulty, the awkward top-down camera, and gameplay felt more frustrating than fun at times. But the biggest criticism was the graphics. Compared to the other games that were released the same year, GTA looked very primitive. But despite all that, or maybe because of all that, GTA still managed to sell over 1 million copies by the early 2000s. The Hauser brothers' plan worked perfectly. GTA became the game that parents try to protect their kids from, and that made kids want it even more. Now that GTA has reputation and fanbase, DMA Design rushed to begin work on a sequel. While all that was happening, a new giant was quietly rising in the background. Take-Two Interactive, based in New York, decided to go public and use their new funding to acquire as many IPs as they could possibly get. One of the companies they had their eyes on was BMG Interactive, where the Hauser brothers worked. But this wasn't just a random acquisition. Take-Two had a very specific goal in mind. They wanted Grand Theft Auto. And a large part of BMG Interactive team, including the Hauser brothers, were relocated to New York. And within the year, Take-Two launched a brand new development label under their wing, and Rockstar Games were born. It was a perfect name, fitting the Hauser brothers very well, who once dreamed becoming a rockstars. Now they were going to be a video game rockstars instead. Meanwhile, back in Dundee, DMA Design was going through its own chaotic transformation. After releasing the first GTA, DMA started bouncing from one owner to another. In 1997, they were acquired by Gremlin Interactive, but just a year later, Infogrames Entertainment bought the Gremlin, and with it DMA's entire operation. It was a mess. And to make the things worse, DMA still was contractually obligated to develop GTA 2 for BMG Interactive, but then Take-Two stepped in, this time directly acquiring DMA Design. And with that move, they officially made Grand Theft Auto Take-Two's IP. This shift didn't sit well with a lot of original DMA developers. Many of them had already been burned once when they lost the rights to their hit game Lemmings, and they saw the same story playing out again. They knew exactly what was coming next. One by one, core developers who helped to build the first Grand Theft Auto from the ground up started leaving the company. Only few remained, left to pick up the pieces and carry their legacy forward.
Is everything.
Just before leaving the company, Mike managed to upgrade GTA's 2 engine. He implemented better rendering optimization, improved the lighting system, and significantly upgraded the game's overall visuals. Compared to the original GTA, GTA 2 looked a huge step forward. When Mike and the original team left, the remaining artists pick up where he left off, respecting the foundation he has built. Then they started filling in the game with their own ideas, adding elements and features they felt made sense. The developers were disappointed that the players didn't do any missions in the last game. So for GTA 2 they wanted to make missions more meaningful, more than just optional distractions. That's when they introduced the dynamic reputation system. The idea was simple. If you work for one gang or kill members from a rival faction, your reputation would shift. Some gangs would like you, some wouldn't care, and others start hating you and shoot at you on sight. This system added some extra layer of strategy and chaos to the way you navigate the world, because if you keep doing missions for one faction, will be more and more aggressive against you, so you needed to balance those three factions. And so, in the fall of 1999, DMA Design released Grand Theft Auto 2. Even though the original creators have left before the finish line, they'd done enough groundwork to make GTA 2 feel like a natural evolution of the first. But also, GTA 2 felt much more different. Because the original stuff left, artists that left envisioned completely different city than before. That's why GTA 2 was set in a futuristic dystopian metropolis called Anywhere City. It gave a game strange and unique tone that stood out from anything that Rockstar would later do in the series. While most of the players never noticed it, the protagonist of GTA 2 actually had a name, Cloud Speed. He was silent but ruthless criminal, willing to do anything to climb the criminal ladder. Rockstar even created a live-action promo short film featuring Claude, giving the character a bit more identity, something that the first game never attempted. Still, GTA 2 didn't have much of a story. Sure, the mission structure was improved, but the game was still designed to let players create their own chaos, to make their own stories through destruction, carnage, and mayhem. But despite the visual upgrades and small gameplay tweaks, GTA 2 didn't feel all that different from the first game. And once the reviews started rolling in, it became obvious critics weren't impressed. Many of them pointed out that the game hadn't evolved much. The core gameplay loop was still the same: drive, shoot, destroy. To a lot of people, GTA 2 felt more of the same. Even though GTA 2 initially sold well, the momentum didn't last. Over time, sales slowed down and eventually came to crawl. It became clear that GTA 2 was the first and only miss in the series. Strangely enough, GTA 2 wasn't the only Grand Theft Auto game released in 1999. While DMA Design was busy developing GTA 2, Take-Two Interactive had already begun mobilizing its newly acquired studios. One of those was GameTech, which was soon rebranded as Rockstar Canada. Their job? Create a small expansion pack for the original GTA. Rockstar handed them the full source code, but as we already know, the original GTA engine was held together with a duct tape. The code was riddled with bugs and crashes, and even the smallest changes could break the whole thing. So the team at Rockstar Canada made a decision. Instead of overhauling gameplay or mechanics, they would focus entirely on cosmetic changes. That's how we got the GTA London expansion pack, set in the swinging 1960s. All assets, including IE elements, vehicles and environment, were rebuilt from scratch to match the new British setting. They didn't have much time either. The team spent less than a year developing the expansions. And so in the spring of 1999, GTA London 1969 was released. A few months later, a follow-up with the GTA London 1961 prequel expansion pack that took place earlier in the timeline was also released. Gameplay-wise, nothing major was changed. Mission structure, player movements, progression, it was all practically identical to the original GTA. The only difference was the style that they took. Traffic drove on the left side of the road, weapons looked different but worked exactly the same, cars were modeled after classic British vehicles, including iconic double-decker buses. The music, voice and vibe were all tailored to the 1960s London aesthetic, but cosmetic upgrades weren't enough. Critics were quickly to point out the lack of meaningful improvements. London expansion packs were slammed for their shallow design, offering little more than a reskin of the original game. Sure, they were fun for the fans of the original game, but they didn't attract new players, and they certainly didn't push the series forward. GTA 2 and GTA London proved one thing, that brand recognition wasn't enough. The name Grand Theft Auto alone couldn't guarantee success of the game. Now everything rested in the hands of DMA Design. If they couldn't evolve the series, GTA might disappear for good. After the disappointment of GTA 2, DMA Design founder Dave Jones decided it's time to leave. Take-Two was fully committed to acquire the studio, and Dave knew that if he stayed, he will be trapped making GTA games for the rest of his life, and he was tired of that. So in 1999, Dave stepped down as CEO. By 2002, he has gone to start a new studio, Real Time Worlds. His replacement as a project lead on GTA was Leslie Benzies, a self-taught programmer who had joined DMA back in 1995. His first project, porting a quirky game called Space Station Silicon Valley to the Nintendo 64, a technical nightmare and a big test for the new developers. Despite the challenge, the team pulled it off and even impressed Nintendo. That win earned them major trust for the higher-ups at Rockstar. So when it was time to begin work on GTA 3, Rockstar put Benzie and his crew in charge. The new game was going to be a full evolution of the series. It would leave behind a 2D world and go completely 3D. It was built to take full advantage of the just released PlayStation 2. To speed up development, Rockstar licensed third-party engine, Renderware. They had been impressed by the 2000 racing game Burnout, which used it. But unlike Burnout, they needed the engine to simulate an entire open-world city, not just fast-moving cars and closed tracks. The technical challenges were enormous. DMA had to somehow squeeze their chaotic living city from GTA 2 into the three-dimensional space with limited memory and a console they had never developed for before. They started small. First, they created basic road layouts, just the wireframes or where the players would drive. Then they blocked out a simple 3D shapes to represent buildings, so they could understand how complex the world would be. That's when Leslie Benzie, a programmer Adam Fowler, and artist Aaron Garbutt had a breakthrough. They designed a streaming solution that pulled in-game assets straight from the disk dynamically, certain around the player's location. Instead of loading everything at once, the game would stream buildings, vehicles, and pedestrians from the disk as needed, using PS2's larger disk capacity to overcome its small memory limit. This was revolutionary. This allowed players to drive across a massive open world without no loading screens. This system would go on to influence every GTA game after. Once the streaming technology was locked in, they started populating the world, designing cars, modeling characters, creating weapons, and building detailed urban environments. But one thing became clear: the old approach of story wouldn't cut it anymore. In GTA 1 and 2, the missions were mostly disconnected and the story was thin. Now, with a full 3D world, they needed a real narrative. That's why Rockstar brought in a writing team to craft a proper script, including Dan Houser, who would go on to shape the tone and style of the entire franchise. This fundamentally changed the identity of GTA. For the first time, they built a fully voiced, acted, motion-captured world. They even hired real actors to play the key roles. Actors like Robert Loggia as Ray, Frank Vincent as Don Salvatore, and rapper Keith Guru Elm as 8-Ball. The game artist struggled with its art direction, so that's why art direction was reworked several times. Early builds of the game were more colorful, almost cartoony, but that didn't match the new, gritty tone of the story. So the team made major shift towards dark, moody visuals. Rain, motion blur, and low lighting were added late in the development to support the new noir-like aesthetic. In June of 2001, DMA presented an early version of GTA 3 at E3 in Los Angeles. They were very excited to show off their groundbreaking game, but no one cared. The audience were more interested in the big names like Metal Gear Solid 2, Silent Hill 2, and Max Payne. It seemed like everyone had forgotten about GTA entirely. Still, the team returned home more determined than ever. They knew that they have something special. But just as they were preparing to launch, tragedy struck. On September 11, 2001, terrorist attack in New York City changed everything. Rockstar's office had to evacuate for over a month, and worse, investors were now worried. A violent open crime game set in a fictional New York City could be seen as tone deaf or even offensive. So Rockstar had to make last-minute changes. Fire trucks and police cars were redesigned. Planes were made inaccessible and airports had the collision turned off. Skyscrapers were altered to avoid any resemblance to the Twin Towers. Even the CD case cover art was changed, becoming now the iconic comic book collage style they used ever since. Finally, after years of development, technical hurdles, and global tragedy, GTA 3 was released in October 2001, exclusively on PlayStation 2. PC and Xbox ports followed a year later.
Sorry, babe. I'm an ambitious girl. You're just small time.
You return to Liberty City, the same city from the original GTA, playing a silent protagonist named Claude. But even this character shares the same name as GTA 1 Player, they have no connection, and the game itself has no connection with the previous GTA 2 games. The game begins with Claude and his girlfriend Catalina robbing a bank, but things go south fast. Catalina betrays him and leaves him dead in an alleyway. Claude is arrested and sentenced to 10 years in a prison. A few weeks later, while he was being transferred along with other inmates, their convoy was ambushed by Colombia cartel. They were after of one of the prisoners and, escaping, blew up the bridge that was connecting the cities. And just like that, the game begins. You take full control of Claude, ready to rise through the criminal underworld of Liberty City and get revenge on Catalina. The core structure of the game is still similar to previous GTA titles. You complete missions for different gangsters and move to a new area when things get too hot. But thanks to a new cinematic cutscenes, players now get a real sense of what's going on, who's who, and why you're doing what you're doing. It adds personality to the crime bosses, where previously all you had was a line of text at the bottom of the screen. Now it feels like you're part of a movie. Just like games before, GTA 3 is oozing with personality. From absurd billboards and posters to the ridiculous things pedestrians say when you're walking by them. Everything is built to parody how American media portrays the US to the world in 2000s, with over-the-top comedy sprinkled in. Things like violent crime and prostitution are part of the world here. The best part is probably the radio stations. There are several you can listen to it while driving, especially Chatterbox FM, hosted by the real radio personality Laszlo Jones, who not only voiced the fictional version of himself, but also co-wrote the script with Dan Houser. Despite the improvements in storytelling, the story of GTA 3 itself wasn't the most memorable. Many of the major characters are based on common stereotypes, intentionally so, but it doesn't give the game much emotional depth. Then again, let's not forget, this was 2001. Games with deep cinematic narrative were still rare. Instead, GTA 3's strength was the groundbreaking open world design. For the first time, players had the freedom to do whatever they wanted in 3D. Becoming a taxi driver, a vigilante cop, or just live out your own story in the city. This was the first time game truly opened the doors to the magic of sandbox gameplay. And thanks to brilliant programmers, GTA 3 was the first game in the series to be fully played in third person. The city itself was carefully modeled to simulate real urban life. Trains ran on time, ambulances respond to accidents, police chase criminals, all in the world with a full day and night cycle and dynamic weather. The city was split in 3 districts. Portland, an industrial lower-class area inspired by Brooklyn. It's where crime runs rampant. The Italian mob constantly clashes with the triads. Prostitutes and their pimps roam the streets. Staunton Island is unlocked after completing enough missions in Portland. This is the business district modeled after Manhattan. It features towering skyscrapers, a football stadium, casinos, and malls. Here you cross paths with Yakuzas, Jamaican Yardis, and Colombian cartel. Shortside Vale is a home to Liberty City's wealthiest residents. Massive mansions, private pools, and luxury cars. This is where the money lives. Each district has its own vibe, which makes the game world feel alive and rich with variety. Players can steal any car they see, but now they can also hop on trains or just explore on foot. The new third-person perspective revealed a new physics engine. Cars could flip, tip over, or behave more realistically than ever before. Many vehicles were randomly found on the streets, but there were also special ones hidden in specific spots. Players could also store stolen cars in their personal garage to keep them safe, another first in the series. GTA 3 also introduced boats and airplanes. though after tragic events of 9/11, only one plane remained, the Dodo, which was intentionally hard to fly due to its clipped wings. Overall, GTA 3 was a massive improvement over its predecessors. The open world, deeper character, new camera perspective and improved driving and combat all pushed the series into a new era. The result is a product that didn't just transform the GTA series, it reshaped the entire video game industry. The game flew off the shelves. Critics raved, reviews were glowing, many praised its attention to detail and complete freedom it offered. GTA 3 was hailed as a masterpiece in game design, but with great attention came controversy. GTA 3 focus on mature themes and violence sparked outrage from parents and the media. Some accused the developers of brainwashing players into committing crimes. Others claimed things that existed in the game that were completely false. Of course, most of that wasn't true. But this won't be the last time Rockstar found itself in the middle of media storm. Right after GTA 3 was released on PS2, the developers immediately started working on an expansion pack. It's supposed to add new vehicles, weapons and story missions. But once GTA 3 became a massive hit, Rockstar decided to go even bigger, scrapping the idea for expansion pack and instead making a full game. But before they could really move forward, some things had to be sorted out. So Rockstar officially acquired DMA Design and rebranded them as a Rockstar North. The small remaining development team was moved to Edinburgh, where they still work to this day. By 2002, the next big project in the GTA series was already gaining momentum. Everything that the team already made for the planned GTA 3 expansion was retrofitted and reimagined to match the new 1980s aesthetic. According to Sam Housen, in an interview, the idea for a 90s themed game was already floating around even before the GTA 3 was released. But they ditched it early on, likely because of the mixed reception of GTA London and GTA 2. However, with the GTA 3 success, they decided to bring the retro idea back full force. The writing team dove deep into researching the media of that era. Their inspiration became Scarface, Carlitos Way, and Miami Vice. From there, the art department began building a completely new kind of metropolis for the player to explore. They spent a ton of time studying architecture and design from the 80s to really nail the atmosphere. This time around, writers were more focused on telling more memorable story, a clear improvement from GTA 3's more silent approach. In the previous game, they always wanted the main character to have a voice, but dropped the idea due to time constraints. Now, with more time and bigger budget, they went all in.
You should try this at home sometime. This shit is hardcore.
It's Grand Theft Auto.
Funny old guy recently, right?
The guy says, "Who's buying this?" And he points to me.
Yeah.
He says,
Any circumstance, little money, little dick, little house, little car.
Take it personally, my dear.
Look, you know what Lucky stands for? L-U-C-K-Y?
$320? Give him a stick? I mean, shit, let him... I'll take an ass whipping for $320.
I stick my neck out for nobody.
Yeah.
This is a disaster. We are so screwed, man. I was in it. That was perfect. I was in it. That was excellent.
They hired Ray Liotta to voice the protagonist Tommy Vercetti. On top of that, the Rockstar licensed over 100 songs from the actual 80s to create an immersive in-game radio experience. And just after 9 months of development, Rockstar dropped the much anticipated sequel. Grand Theft Auto Vice City was released in 2002. In Vice City, you play as Tommy Vercetti, a mobster sent to a fictional version of Miami, Florida to help the mob expand their business in the cocaine-fueled 80s. But after a major drug deal gone wrong and money disappeared, Tommy is forced to find out who was behind the ambush, or risk getting killed by his boss Sonny Forelli. Like GTA 3, you slowly unlock new missions and areas you progress. But unlike GTA 3, Vice City pacing hits a wall in the third act. The final missions are locked behind the requirement to own enough businesses and complete an extra missions. It's a design choice that would probably be hated today, but it was 2002, and open world design was still new and exciting. By that point in the game, most players were actually deep into the world and didn't mind the slowdowns. Small issues aside, Vice City tells a more engaging story this time around. Thanks to its voice protagonist and the full cast of unique characters, all heavily inspired by the 80s media.
You thought I could use a guardian angel. I'm just saying, you need to let me in there, my man. Now you can feed me all this lonely tough guy crap, but I know one day I'm gonna save your ass, and you're probably gonna wanna kiss me.
Tommy is hot-headed and reactive.
I'm gonna shut that big mouth of yours.
A massive shift from GTA 3 Silent clone. He was clearly inspired by Scarface Tony Montana, and his mansion he acquires in the game is almost identical to the Tonys from that movie. His lawyer Rosenberg is also a nod to Sean Penn's character in Carlito's Way. And the whole vibe of the game, from clothes to music to early missions, screams Miami Vice. Even Tommy's partner Lance Vance is voiced by the same actor who played Detective Tubbs in Miami Vice. The 80s atmosphere is absolutely everywhere in this game. The devs nailed the aesthetic, or at least how it was portrayed on TV. Pink and blue menus, neon signs, and soundtrack packed with hit songs from that era. Vice City builds on everything that GTA 3 did and then takes it further. New environments, new guns, more cars, and not for the first time we see a comeback of motorcycles. Cops also got an upgrade. They can now lay down spikes to blow your tires. And if you keep causing chaos, elite officers who looks just like a characters from Miami Vice will come after you, even using the same style of police car. The number of vehicles nearly doubled from GTA 3, and this was also the first game to let you fly with a helicopter and using a proper plane, one that could land on water and actually has a full-size wings. There are also way more buildings to enter and even rob: restaurants, bars, clubs, malls, clothes store and more. A new feature in Vice City was the ability to buy businesses and properties. Each of them had their own missions and objectives, giving a player a reason to explore the entire map and build their empire. Overall, Vice City polished what worked in GTA 3 and cranked it up a notch. Naturally, it was a massive success. Critics praised the game for its unforgettable atmosphere and the 80s personality. But just like its predecessor, Vice City didn't avoid controversies. And yet it was just beginning. With every new release, GTA would only become more notorious and more iconic. After the work on PC port of Vice City was wrapping up, writer Dan Houser and James Worrell began planning the next entry in 3D era of GTA. When deciding on the next setting, the team quickly agreed it was time for San Andreas. It was the last of the original trilogy cities from the first GTA that hadn't yet received a 3D treatment. This time Rockstar was set to capture the essence of inner city hood culture during the early 1990s. As expected, the cast was predominantly black, a bold move for the team of Scottish developers, especially considering that their story would touch the infamous 1992 LA riots. To ensure the setting was handled with respect and authenticity, Rockstar brought on board rapper and producer Mark Jordan, better known as DJ Pooh, to help write and consult on the development. Meanwhile, another part of the team was flown out to California, where they photographed everything they could, including some of the LA's most dangerous neighborhoods, to accurately capture the region's look and feel. When they returned, the artists and programmers began what would become Rockstar's most ambitious project to date. Instead of just one city, They aim to recreate 3 major American cities, all interconnected with expansive rural areas between them. At that time, this goal seemed nearly impossible. Liberty City and Vice City has already pushed the PS2 limits, with loading zones taking up nearly an entire disk. So the programming team came up with a new rendering pipeline. Distant objects would now be rendered as low poly variants, only switching to full detail when the player was close. This breakthrough allowed the devs to expand the scope dramatically, building a massive, seamless open world. They also enchanted their animation system, which made it quick and easy to import new player actions, like shooting pool or working out at the gym. Lighting was also significantly improved thanks to lessons learned from earlier games. They even implemented stealth system directly lifted and adapted from the previous title Manhunt. And finally, after 2 years of development, Rockstar released long anticipated next chapter in the series. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas launched in 2004, first on PS2 with an Xbox and PC port followed a year later. The game is set in 1992, a fictional version of Los Angeles, known in the game as Los Santos. The story follows Carl Johnson, or CJ, a young black man returning home after learning that his mother was killed in a gang-related shooting. But once he arrived, CJ discovers that his whole neighborhood has fallen apart. A rival gang called the Ballers now dominates the area, while CJ's childhood gang, the Grove Street Families, is on the verge of collapse. To make matters worse, CJ is immediately blackmailed by the corrupt cop named Tenpenny, who forces him to carry out dirty work on his behalf. Early missions are simple: helping old friends regain street respect, jump-starting a friend's rapper career, and pushing rival gangs off the turf. But as the things started to stabilize, CJ uncovers a massive conspiracy, and he is eventually exiled from the city, sending him to a journey across entire state. From this point, San Andreas began to resemble early GTA games, with its classic rag-to-riches structure. CJ meets a cast of quirky, often shady characters and slowly rise through the ranks of power and influence, eventually becoming the most powerful man in San Andreas. The game climax is one of the most unforgettable in the series. Set during the chaos of the 1992 LA riots, the city is in flames and Rockstar captured the sheer madness of the moment with incredible intensity. San Andreas also draws heavily inspiration from the 90s hip-hop culture and classic films like The Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, and Warriors, with an even larger cast than Vice City. This game tells deeper, more emotionally driven story, filled with better character development and complex structure. This time Rockstar wanted to move away from Italian mob movie formula and give the game completely new identity. But perhaps the biggest evolution was the sheer size of the game. San Andreas didn't just feature 3 cities, it covered an entire state, filled with more variety than ever before. In Los Santos, players could tag graffiti, engage in gang wars, and fight for territory. Color-coded areas on the map represent who's controlling what. If your turf got attacked, you have to defend it, or risk losing it. As your influence grew, you could even recruit gang members to fight alongside you. There were also new RPG-style character systems. CJ could visit barbers, tattoo parlors, or clothes stores to fully customize his appearance. He could eat at fast food joints, but eating much more would make him gain weight, and you need to hit the gym to burn it off or bulk up. Even your driving and shooting skills would level up the more you use them, unlocking new combat styles along the way. The game also introduced a girlfriend dating system. Each relationship offered a unique reward as they progressed. From playing basketball or pool to casino gambling, BMX racing, demolition derbies, skydiving, and photography, The sheer amount of things to do was absurd, making San Andreas the ultimate sandbox experience. Critically, reception was overwhelming positive. Someone even rated higher than Vice City. Reviewers were amazed that Rockstar managed to fit so much content on a one single dual-layer DVD. Gamers praised it for developing dozens upon dozens of hours of pure entertainment. San Andreas sold over 2 million copies in just 2 weeks, outperforming all of its predecessors and eventually becoming not only one of the best-selling GTA games, but the best-selling PS2 game of all time. In 2004, Electronic Arts acquired Criterion Games, which has been a backbone of Rockstar GTA games up to this point. This caused a major ripple effect through the industry, because a large portion of PS2 games has been built using renderware, and now the technology was owned by one of Rockstar's biggest competitors. Some developers like Illusion Software were hit hard. They were forced to completely restart development on Mafia 2 from scratch using a new engine, but Rockstar had a temporary safety net. They had pre-existing contracts that allowed them to keep using renderware just for a little while longer. Still, it was clear the next Grand Theft Auto would be run on a brand new engine. That's when Angel Studios entered the picture. Angel Studios was San Diego-based software development company founded by Diego Angelo back in 1984. But in the 90s, they began gaining recognition thanks to collaborations with Nintendo and Microsoft. By the early 2000s, Rockstar had partnered with Angel Studios to produce games like Midnight Club and Smuggler's Run, using their own proprietary tech. Following the success of those titles, Take-Two Interactive officially acquired the studio and renamed it to Rockstar San Diego. From there, they will continue working on Midnight Club 2 and Western-themed shooter called Red Dead Revolver. By 2004, Rockstar San Diego has become a crucial part of Rockstar Global Development Network. Now with EA in control of renderware, Rockstar needed a new technological foundation, and fast. So their programming team was tasked to build a new next-generation engine from ground up. It has to be stronger, smarter and even more flexible, with better lighting, better render capabilities, a support for third-party technologies like Euphoria, which enable highly realistic character physics. And the engine has become known as Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, or RAGE. It was first showcased through the simple tennis demo created by Rockstar San Diego, but it wasn't until Rockstar North got their hands on it that the engine's full potential was truly realized. And with the tech challenge solved, Rockstar set their sights on creating one of the most ambitious games since the jump from 2D to 3D with GTA 3. The goal for this new entry was to focus tightly on the series' core values. To mark a new era, the writers decided to return once more to Liberty City. But this time they would recreate with a level so detailed, unlike any before. As usual, Rockstar sent research team to New York City, record traffic patterns, pedestrian movement and urban soundscapes. Thanks to Rage, they were able to enchant immersion with a higher level of detail than ever before. A major redesign came in the form of combat. The outdated fighting and shooting system were overhauled with auto-targeting improvements and the introduction of snap-to-cover mechanics, partly inspired by success of games like Gears of War. Meanwhile, the writing team, led once again by Dan Houser, worked day and night to elevate the narrative. Up to this point, GTA stories had often felt like an afterthought, fun but secondary to gameplay. But with the leap to next gen, Houser saw an opportunity to change that. Rockstar also made a bold move by ditching their usual Hollywood celebrity casts. Not only were big-name stars difficult to work with, they were often a logistical nightmare when it comes to money and scheduling. Also, Houser believed that relying too much on celebrity voices hurt immersion, and so the team cast lesser-known actors who truly embodied their roles. And so, after 3 years of full-blown development, Rockstar finally released Grand Theft Auto 4.
What motivates you?
I don't care if I live or die. I'm looking for someone. Don't do anything stupid, cousin.
Man, I'm ready for you. I'm ready.
I don't want to die, man, not like this.
How would you like to die?
We need to go bust somebody, man.
I'm the one who survived.
Grand Theft Auto 4 begins the story of Niko Bellic, a battle-scarred veteran driven by revenge. He arrives in Liberty City aboard a cargo ship, lured by a promise of better life, sold to him by his cousin Roman. Roman painted a picture of American dream, sports cars, mansions and women, but reality hit different. Niko quickly learns that Roman's life isn't glamorous at all. He's a struggling owner of a small taxi company, living in a run-down apartment in one of the city's worst neighborhoods. To make matters worse, Niko discovers that Roman's fiancée may be involved with another man, something he doesn't take lightly. His reaction sets a chain of events that leads Niko being hunted by Russian mafia. Throughout his journey, Niko builds a network of allies, each with their own eccentric personalities. There's little Jacob with heavily accented Jamaican arms dealer, Brucey Kibbutz, a steroid-fueled alpha male caricature, obsessed with his own image. And there's Riley brothers, all of whom are steeped in crime and personal demons. What sets GTA 4 apart is its shift in tone. It presents a much less glamorous view of criminal underworld than its predecessors. The characters that Niko interact with often suffers from addiction or poor decision making, or just deep personal traumas, many of which leads to tragic ends. Niko itself isn't a hero. He's traumatized by the ghost of his past and driven by a ruthless thirst for vengeance. His immigration backstory adds depth, often a gritty look at post-9/11 America life from the outsider's perspective. Despite the darker tone, GTA 4 still delivers the satire edge that series is known for, mocking politics, culture and society through its warped lens. The main story is far more mature and grounded than any Rockstar narrative before it, taking around 30 hours to complete depending on how much players explore the side content. Liberty City too underwent a massive transformation. This was no longer a series of generic repeating city blocks. This time it was a detailed reimagination of Manhattan and its surrounding boroughs. The level of environment detail was unprecedented. The city felt alive. NPC hailed taxis, ate at food carts, littered from their cars, and even opened umbrellas when it was raining. A new physics engine also added an extra layer of realism. Characters now reacted to obstacles and crashed more naturally. Cars could flip, and if you hit a wall too hard, Niko could be ejected through a windshield, which is always fun to see. And body physics responded dynamically to injuries. Vehicle damage reflected the impact of a crash, and NPC reacted differently based on where they were shot. Outside the main story, GTA 4 offered a variety of side activities like bowling, darts, pool, video games, and comedy clubs. The game even featured a fully functional in-game internet with some websites and dating platforms, fake news, and conspiracy pages. You could literally sit for hours watching TV shows that were fully animated, complete with in-universe commercials and references to previous GTA titles. It was also the first game in the series to introduce mobile phone as a core gameplay mechanic. Through it, players could call contacts, arrange hangouts, hail taxi, or check mail. One of the standout features was friendship system, an evolution of San Andreas dating mechanic. Nico could bond with up to 10 characters, each with their own preferred food, clothing and activities. Maintaining good relationships unlock special perks like discounted weapons, free helicopter rides or emergency help. This system added a new layer of immersion, making you feel like you're living Nico's life, not just playing a character. Of course, the entire game was rebuilt from ground up on a Rage engine. Everything felt fresh: movement, physics, combat. Characters had weight and momentum. Cars handled differently based on size and type. Some felt heavy, others nimble, bringing the experiences even closer to reality than ever before. Combat was another major overhaul. Rockstar moved away from dated shooting system of the past and embraced modern third-person shooter mechanics. Players could aim for specific body parts, shooting a headshot guaranteed a kill, while shooting to the arm could cause enemy to drop their weapon, shoot a leg and they collapse. It was brutal but realistic change that added gravity to every encounter. However, not all the features from previous games returned. Property ownership and businesses were just limited to few locations, and car customization was largely absent. But the biggest gameplay improvement came from how the police chases were redesigned. Wanted levels were now indicated by a circle zone on the map. Evading the police became a matter of leaving the search area and staying out of sight, not just outrunning their cars. This made chaos more manageable and escape more strategic. The game also featured a multiplayer mode. While bare bones compared to modern standards, it still offered more fun and chaotic open-world madness, though the servers have since been shut down, but it laid the groundwork for the online experience that would come later. Despite few missing features, GTA 4 was groundbreaking. It was praised for innovation, maturity and depth, earning review scores of 98% and higher across the board. To this day, many fans and critics still consider it Rockstar's most emotional and powerful entry in the series. Development of Grand Theft Auto 5 began even before the GTA 4 had reached store shelves. Dan Houser and one of the Rockstar key creative minds saw massive potential in the interconnected storytelling that began to emerge during the series. He wanted to evolve the concept further by building a story around three distinct player archetypes: the hard veteran criminal, the chaotic psycho, and ambitious rookie. First step was choosing the location. While returning to Liberty City has been a huge success in GTA 4, Rockstar now wanted something new, something bigger and more open. The decision was made to head back to West Coast, a region offering wider variety of landscape and tones than ever before. Just like in the past, development began with extensive research. Teams of developers were sent out to Los Angeles, tasked with capturing hundreds of thousands of photos and hundreds of hours of video footage. When they returned, Rockstar art and design teams began shaping the world, sculpting terrain, laying down roads, constructing recognizable buildings, and filling in the details that gave the city its life. But unlike San Andreas, this time they won't be attempting to recreate an entire state. Instead, they chose to focus solely on a highly detailed, condensed version of Los Angeles and its surrounding areas. With the scale of detail they were aiming for, building an entire state just wasn't realistic with the production timeline that they had. On the technical side, Rockstar programmers, now fully comfortable with the Rage engine, spent significant time fine-tuning lighting and shadows to get the most of the aging PS3 and Xbox 360 hardware. They applied everything they learned from previous titles built on Rage to enchant GTA 5 world and realism. The biggest challenge actually was designing the game around three playable characters. It wasn't just about writing three stories, it was about figuring out how players could seamlessly switch between them. especially during missions. Once the system was working smoothly in missions, Rockstar expanded it. Now players could switch characters in any point during free roam, triggering hundreds of scripted scenes that gave the impression that each character was living their own life, even when players wasn't watching. As the game near release, the hype surrounding GTA 5 was unrealistically high. And after 3 years in development involving Rockstar North and virtually every other Rockstar studio worldwide, Grand Theft Auto 5 was finally released. Grand Theft Auto 5 takes place in present-day San Andreas and follows the story of 3 criminals as they pull off major heists around Los Santos and Blaine County. Players get controlled 3 unique characters, each with their own skills, personalities and motives. First character is Michael De Santa. He is a highly skilled ex-bank robber who entered witness protection after selling out his crew during a heist gone wrong. On the surface, it looks like Michael is living the dream, but deep down he is haunted by the guilt. He is often taking his frustration out on the people around him, whether it's his cheating wife, his fame-hungry daughter, or his lazy son who doesn't appreciate anything he's been given. On the other side of the city, we meet Franklin. He's an ambitious repo man, raised in the hood and looking for a way out. After failed attempt to repossess Michael's son Jimmy's car, Michael sees potential in Franklin and takes him under his wing. When Michael's temper causes him a run-in with a local crime boss, he and Franklin are forced to rob a jewelry store to pay the debt. This robbery catches the attention of our third character when he sees the news report about it. Trevor Phillips. He's a true psychopath, unstable, unpredictable, and highly volatile. He serves a dual purpose in the story, acting as both as a protagonist and antagonist. When Trevor realized that his old friend and partner Michael somehow survived the bank heist they both were part of at the start of the game, he decides to pay him a visit. When he finds out that Michael betrayed him, things get personal. The tension between Michael and Trevor is felt throughout the entire story. That's just the tip of the iceberg. The adventure of these 3 characters dragged them deep into crazy jobs, from working with shady government agents to pulling off a massive heist against crime lords and pushing all 3 of them to the breaking point.
Sweet mother.
Heists are core part of GTA 5. While previous games had robberies, GTA 5 made them a major focus. Players often have to gather the right clothes, gear and information needed to pull off each heist. How the heist play out can change depending on the choices players make. You can go stealthy, taking out guards with gas and sneaking out undetected, or go in loud with guns blazing, leading to wild shootouts and Hollywood-style getaways. Of course, it's not just about heists. Almost every mission in GTA 5 feels like it was ripped straight out of a movie. Whether it's car chases, shootouts or big explosions, each mission is packed with action and variety. GTA has always drawn inspiration from movies, and in GTA 5 the homages and references are even more there. While technically GTA 5's campaign is shorter than GTA 4, the sheer size and diversity of open world is more than makes up for it. GTA 5 map is the biggest Rockstar have ever built at that time of release. So big that someone said you could fit all previous GTA maps into it. The map 75 square kilometers and includes one of the tallest mountain Rockstar ever created. Each location feels alive and full of things to do. Whenever it's riding a roller coaster, playing tennis, taking a bus tour of the city, playing golf, or dozens of other side activities. Just like past GTA games, you can shop for clothes in one store and rob another few blocks away. GTA 5 also improved its combat system even further than GTA 4, and the game brought back fans' favorite features like car customization, character tattoos, clothing options, and even weapon upgrades. RPG-style character stats also return, letting players build up skills like driving, shooting, and stamina. Sadly, weight gains and loss from San Andreas were cut from the game, probably because Rockstar didn't want players mess with the image of their three main characters by making them huge or skinny. GTA 5, simply put, is a masterpiece. It's crazy to think how far GTA has come, from the small pixelated streets of the first game, to the 3D jump with the GTA 3 that changed everything, to cruising around Vice City with the radio blasting, to taking over the hood in San Andreas, to the darker, heavier world of GTA 4, and finally standing here at GTA 5, bigger, louder, but still holding the same spirit inside. Each game felt like a time capsule of its era, like you could feel the world changing around you as you played. We grew up with GTA, we learned how to break the rules, laugh at chaos, and sometimes even feel a little guilty about the chaos we made. But we always came back, always wanted one more ride through the city, one more chase, one more mission. It was the end of the journey that started way back on PlayStation 1. And even if the world keeps moving forward, those memories, the first time you stole a car, the first time you outrun the cops, the first time you heard perfect song on the radio, they will stay with you forever.